Hello everyone, we are group 4 and our company is Boats Bikes. Here is all the members' name and here is our agenda. Firstly, introduction, SWOT analysis, issue analysis, and lastly, recommendation and timelines. And here is introduction. Both use work and corporate companies. Firstly, it's a passion, and after that, they are promotion to potential in this passion, and they provide services, lots of services like sales, repairs, customize, and others. Boats has informed of various accounting issues for which we would like to the recommendations issues look the quantitative and advantage disadvantage. Here is our spot in the strengths. There has a passion to childhood passion, opening the bike shops, engagement through group rides, cycling workshops, charity events, and others, and pursuing of parts for the potential loyalty discounts. And moreover, in the weakness, lack of this weakness, management experience and expertise, awareness, reputation for the starting business, and structure of the profilities, and some opportunities like commonly building activities and attract and retain customers, growing interest, fitness, healthy lifestyle, so other cycling infrastructure in the city. And some has threats like popularity of e-bikes, reducing customer services traditional bikes.
Hi, I'm Adil. So I'll be talking about the categorization of costs. So Bottas has given us a table of different costs which he has identified. So in those, the different types of costs that exist are direct labor, direct material, manufacturing overhead. So for example, labor time would be considered a direct labor cost. And the Limano parts with shipping, so that parts would be considered a direct material cost. And everything else, including rent, utilities, inspection, all that would be considered a manufacturing overhead cost. And regarding product and period cost, like costs are which are directly involved in the creation of the product, and period costs are which incurred on a period of time. So mostly product costs are the labor cost, the rent, because without the location, the assembly wouldn't take place. And utilities, depreciations, all those are product costs. So period cost can be like inventory, customer service, legal costs. So those would be period costs. And then we have variable costs and fixed costs. So variable costs are which change with the number of units which Bottas produces. Like for example, the parts cost, the inspection cost. So that increases as the number of units increase. And the fixed costs are those which do not increase irrespective of how many units Bottas produces. So like rent, utilities, or inventory cost. So that stays the same. So going over to the second issue, so Bottas wants to know if he should allocate his overhead costs based on the direct labor hours or the number of units. So taking into account his number of hours he has worked, we have calculated the different overhead costs for direct labor hours and direct labor of units. So the different splits that we're getting is 53, 32, 15 for direct labor hours, and then 60, 30, 10 for number of units. So they're a bit different. There are many differences here. In the direct labor hours, there's a more accurate split. And after the calculation, the selling price per unit is also lower in this case. And for the number of units, it's an inaccurate split 60 30 10, and but this will have an easier calculation for Bottas, but we recommend that he would go with direct labor hours as the selling price is lower and also his break even number of bikes changes. So going to the issue number 3, how much should he charge for repairing the bikes? So currently he's planning on charging from 60 to 80 and $100. We think that he should start by charging $60 because he is not a trained mechanic. He has taken some seminars and some classes and offered that service. If he charges a large amount of money, he needs to make sure his services are not shady work, right? And he would attract more customers if he charges a lesser amount in the beginning. Once he gets more experience and he learns more about it, then he can start charging more costs. And the advantage of charging $80 or $100 is definitely he would get more profit and he would have to work less hours if he chooses to compared to before. And how many bikes should he sell to break even? So after our calculation, Bottas should aim to sell 141 mountain bikes, 67 road bikes, and 24 tandem bikes in 1 year.
Thank you, Adil. I'll be talking about issue 4. That is, should Bottas sublease to Emilia for 25% rent on coffee shop or not? And if yes, then should he ask for rent or split coffee shop profit with her? So for that, firstly, the rent on the store is $60 per square feet for a total 2,226 square feet area. Bottas will use 50% of this space for for retail and the other half for repairs. And the cost of sales will be constant 25% of revenue, and Emilia expects the revenue number to double each quarter during the first year. So after the first year, Emilia expects the revenue to remain flat. So the yearly revenue would be 192,000, and we calculated all the cost between the options. Like we have three options. So for the option one is that Bottas does not think coffee shop is a good idea. In the case, his revenue will not be affected. His rent will stay 133 and 560,000 per year. So for the option one, we have some pros and cons. For the pros, we can say that there are no additional responsibilities or complexities of managing coffee shops and no potential conflicts or profit sharing arrangement with Emilia. And the cons would be the potential loss of foot traffic and customer who prefer a coffee shop within the store. We have option two, which is Bodas sublease Emilia 25% of the rent, hence gets per year by Amelia, his payable rent become 1,170. And we have some pros for that, which is Amelia's stardom may attract more customer to both shops. Cost savings on rent with Emilia subleasing a portion, potential for new customers attracted to the coffee shop. And the cons for this option would be loss of additional space for displaying bikes, potential additional cost for exhaust or water supply for the coffee shop, and potential complication in managing shared space. And our last option is Bodas gives 25% area to Emilia for free and takes 50% cut of her profit. So for this option three, we can say that maximum revenue for the pros, the maximum revenues for this space given to Emilia, and a drastic decrease in rental cost, potential for significant profit sharing revenue. And the cons would be potential complication and conflicts with profit sharing arrangement, additional cost of utilities for the coffee shop. So in conclusion, we can say that option three, giving the space to Emilia for free and sharing the profit, seems to be the most advantageous choice for Bodas. So the issue five is, should Bodas pay influencer money for promotion or use Emilia's influence? So for that, we calculated the ROI for buying influencers and Emilia's network as well, where we can see that the ROI for buying influencer is higher, but Bodas would have to pay 56,000 per year for this advertisement. On the other hand, the advertisement cost for Emilia is uh, borne by her, and there would be increase of 800,000 revenue per year for Bodas without paying anything. For the option number one, we can say that there are some pros, which is benefit from Emilia's local stardom and associate with business, opportunity to film Emilia's friend cycling on his bikes for social media content, and then potential for learning and networking with other cycling enthusiasts as well. For the cons for option two is increased reliance on Emilia for bringing new customer, potential for expert cyclists to spot poor workmen in repairs and assembly. For option two, if she goes for the influencer, if the Bottas goes for influencers, the pros would be wider audience reach and increased likelihood for attracting customers, independence for relying on Emilia and her stardom, potential for convincing individuals interested in cycling for health reasons. And the cons would be the annual cost, which is 56,000 for advertising, and it will affect the net income, and lower effectiveness of ads compared to MLS network, as influencers followers may not be cyclists. So for this, comparing to the options, we can say that option one is more profitable for Bodas. That's all for me. Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. Today, I'd like to discuss an important decision Bottas is facing, and this one is choosing the right brake pad supplier for the bike business. So let's dive into our options and weigh the pros and cons. The first, we have Limano, well-established as a supplier. They offer us reliable service and as loyal customer, and Bottas can benefit from their discounts. And as you can see, that pros are we can even manage issues, whatever comes. It's pretty predictable, reliable, and loyalty discounts we can have. And As for the cons, we might have a higher price than the competitor CRAN and longer waiting times. And on the other hand, there's a CRAN, a newer player in the market, offering lower prices but with some uncertainty. So pros are focuses on the innovation and lower prices than the Mano, and cons are moving to Latin America maybe and can create some issue, and it's pretty unpredictable. So after a careful analysis, we found that cost savings by choosing CRAM are not that substantial, amounting to only around $10,000 per year. Considering this, the fact that Limano brings years of experience and reliability to the table, we have decided to stick with the Limano. The next thing we have to decide is determining the right business structure. We have evaluated three options. One is a sole proprietorship and partnership and incorporation. Starting with the sole proprietorship, which means running the business alone, there would be no changes in costs and expenses. Based on our analysis, this would be result in a net income for Bottas $630,000 for $46. So next, we considered a partnership with Emilia, who would become a 50% partner in our revenues. However, after factoring in additional costs such as advertising, it became clear that revenue split was not favorable. Finally, another option is incorporating business. This would allow Bottas Bikes to become its own legal entity, and we could maybe Bottas could sell shares to other investors, although more analysis is needed. So incorporation offer benefits such as limited liability and the potential to raise capital.
All right, thank you. In issue 8, we are going to be preparing a rolling 12 monthly budget for Bottas. So basically, Bottas wants to, plan for the future and prepare a comprehensive budget for the next 12 months. Today is July 1st, and he wants a rolling 12-month budget to incorporate all the cost, and all the items detailed. He estimates that sales will be constant, but will spike by 15%. Next May, and then continue steadily into summer from us. So we've played with the numbers. So basically what a rolling budget is a budget that discards the previous month's values when it moves on to the next month. And Bottas basically just wants to plan for the future. So we've seen that from all of this, we've seen that each month he has some expected amount that is to invest in the business. So this is like a sales budget, but this is the quarterly report. So for the expected unit sales for for each bike, we have for Q1, for Q2 down to Q4, and then we have the total for the year, which is about $6.2 million, and the unit selling price for each as well. And then we have the total sales. So in all, it's going to be investing, say, about 4.2 billion. So issue 9 basically is him trying to eliminate an unprofitable segment. So basically, if we look at each bike segment Bottas has, including the mountain bikes, the road bikes, and the tandem bikes, we can analyze if any of this segment is not profitable and advise Bottas to eliminate them. So if you look at the first one, the first table, would see that he has a negative $17K. So that is because there is definitely an unprofitable segment. And if we look very closely, we'll see that tandem bike is the unprofitable segment showing here. But if we go further down, if we do another calculation of the income data after eliminating the unprofitable product line, we'll see that at the end of the day, net income may decrease if tandem bike line is discontinued. The reason is that Bottas Bike's total fixed cost is the same whether or not the tandem bike line is discontinued. So as a result, the other product will have to absorb the fixed cost allocated to the tandem bike. So assume that of all the $54,000 fixed cost applicable to the tandem bike, the company allocated 2/3 to the mountain bike and 1/3 to the road bike. So the fixed cost will increase at the end of the day. So basically, what this is saying is that whether we remove the tandem bike or not, it's still, whether it's discontinued or not, Bottas total fixed price is still the same. But then we still need a tandem bike because, if you look at the contribution margin, the reason why there is a negative in the first table is because the tandem bike obviously has the contribution margin for that and the fixed cost for that result. So, and we need that tandem bike, whether we like it or not. So total net income is increased by $35,000 if we're, still have the tandem bike there. So it's not something that can be, totally removed or, eliminated. So 296,000 for the mountain bike and 148,000 for the road bike. Then the reason is that Bottas' total fixed cost is the same, whether tandem bike is discontinued. So that is shown in the next table. Yeah. So if you look at that, the increase in net income is attributed to tandem bike's contribution margin, which the company will only realize if it continues the segment. So what this is saying is that the company cannot discontinue tandem bike because it has some form of contribution to the business.
So here is the 10th issue regarding the accounting advice. So I start from the importance of accurate records, where I describe about the assembly and repair business relies on revenue and time billing, and also ensure transparency and informed decision making. So starting from the raw material purchases, it's transfer funds from raw material inventory to account payable, and also with the finished goods inventory, they also transfer funds from work in progress to finished goods inventory after assembly for their future. So regarding with the next point, it's about the benefits of compliance, where decision making and standard of financial reporting is beneficial for their further future. The last one is the professional support. They want the professional support with the skilled accountant can assist with the setup, compliance, and record keeping.
Okay, after addressing all the issues, this is our recommendations timeline. We've done this in phases, so as to have it in a clear manner. The first phase is the financial structuring, the second is the space utilization and partnerships, the third phase is the supply chain management, the fourth is business structure and portfolio, and the final one is the record keeping. So if you look at the first phase of this timeline, it's basically talks about, categorizing different costs, allocating overhead costs based on direct labor hours, and preparing rolling budget, as well as charging $60 for repairing services. Moving on to the second phase, we give like 25% space to Emilia for free and share profits. Use Emilia's network for advertising, which is going to be very good for him at the end of the day to save him costs, and then it will also give him more revenue. The third phase is the, using Limano for brake pads. We talked about the pros and cons of that, and then we talked about the benefits. So the third one is the sole proprietorship and, keeps all segments of the bike. So basically just advising him to go for the sole proprietorship route, as a start, and then he should keep all the 3 segments of the bikes, based on what we calculated before. You cannot eliminate any of the segment because they all have contribution. The final phase is the maintaining accurate records. So he needs a form of record keeping, detailed record keeping, his accounting and the financial management of the business.
Thank you, Neola, and thank you everyone else.